Hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hey Man, It's Okay. I'm your host, Sky, here with just a brief message before we get into this episode. I just want you guys to know that at the end of episode 20 of this season, that will be the end of season 2, and we are going to take a little bit of time before we get into season 3. So please stick with us as there will be a pretty long break, just a couple of months, while Ryan and I are focusing on some stuff in our personal life. Ryan's focusing on his private practice, and I'm taking some classes. So I'm going to really be focusing on that. So please stick with us, stay around, stay tuned. We have so much cool stuff coming. Please like, comment, subscribe. Check out our website, heymanitsokay.com, and stay with us, please, because season 3 is going to be a killer one. Send us your ideas, email us. Let us know the things you think we should talk about, maybe some guests that we should have on season 3. So please stay with us. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another brand new episode of Hey Man, It's Okay. I'm one of your hosts, Sky Bridges.
And I am your other host. My name is Ryan Heapy, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist out of Newport Beach, California.
Awesome. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing pretty good, Sky. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. It's been a busy week. Everyone's been getting that winter cold, which is, I'm still getting over it a little bit, but it's kind of going around a lot right now. I'm seeing it everywhere.
Yeah, and I feel like it lingers. I don't know. At least I had my cold for almost 3 weeks, but I also didn't rest much and was running around the cold streets of Japan. So
yeah, that's right. That's got to be hard to travel when
you're
sick.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun, but the trip was amazing.
Good.
So what do we have coming up?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about today's guest, Ryan. So we're going to talk about something that's a little bit kind of on everybody's minds. It's kind of at the forefront of conversation right now. So I thought it would be good to invite in our guest. We are talking about spirituality today. And in order to talk about that, we invited a very special spirituality coach. We have Global Kristen. Welcome to the podcast, Kristen.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad we were able to make our schedules work. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come here and visit us at Hey Man, It's Okay.
Yes, it's an honor. So I'm really excited. You guys' podcast is super dope. So
thanks.
It's awesome to be here.
I like that. It's dope. That's a good word for it. Well, Kristen, you and I met on an Enneagram 2 Facebook group, which I think is really cool. We've done an episode or two on the Enneagram, talking about it a little bit so we know a little bit about that. So we'll just kind of skip past that part of it. But I found out you were a spirituality coach, and it got me really interested in having a conversation with you. So I was wondering if maybe for our listeners, you can explain what you do a little bit and then maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Thank you so much for asking it. This is not anything that I grew up knowing that I'm going to be a spirituality coach. Like, I didn't even know what that would have meant. But what did happen in my upbringing, I was raised traditional Christian household, and my parents weren't like crazy strict, but they were strict enough where it's like, I wasn't allowed to celebrate Halloween when I was young. So, all the kids were dressing up and going on to the Halloween parade, and I had to like go to the library and like read a book, so things like that. But the biggest turning point that happened for me, like religion wise, was when I was a sophomore in college. And my brother was like a freshman in high school at the time. And he came out to me as a gay man. And I can remember immediately feeling fear because I'm like, oh no. First of all, I'm like, shit, like you're Black and gay. I'm like, you're like super fucked right now. Like, pardon my language. Oh, and then I was just like, is he going to get beat up? Because this is like at a time where it like still wasn't okay enough to be gay. It wasn't like now where everything's like pride, pride, pride. It was still like his friends could abandon him or anything like that. So I was afraid about that. And then I was really afraid about what my parents would say because of our religious upbringing and everything. And I just got to this place, like this turning point where I was like asking myself, why do I have to be afraid about this? Like, this is dumb. Why do I have to like his soul, like what's going to happen to him? Is he going to like burn in hell forever? And just like having to even ask myself those questions, I'm just like, I don't choose to believe in anything that's going to send my brother to hell. So in that moment, I pretty much just parted ways with like religion and like a screw God phase for like 10 plus years, just because like that was my understanding of that. And I since have grown from that and have really restored my relationship with what I call the divine. And I just went on this really unique journey where I had to do my own self-discovery of like, what that connection meant to me and building my own relationship. And so that's basically what I teach people how to do, how to tap into their, what I call divine entities, and like really get connected in a way that makes sense for them, in a way that feels good for them, and in a way that they feel like undeniably loved and supported in everything that they do. So it's really fulfilling for me to help people make that connection, knowing how much trauma there is around like religion and things like that. I know you guys know about that too from your own experiences. So
Yeah, for sure. I can totally relate with the upbringing in a strict-ish household. So I completely understand that. How did you even know that being a spirituality coach could be a thing?
yeah, I really didn't. I get still a lot of my like insight, what I call like divine insight, from just journaling or writing or like all of these different creative ways, like these like thoughts that will come to me. So it's kind of like something that evolved, because as I was like growing into this, I was kind of like, what do I call myself? So I just kind of had to combine outcome of what I provide with my passion. So that's how I kind of came with like spiritual clarity coach, because it's like you're really getting clear on your spirituality in a way that makes sense for you. So it kind of just evolved into that. And I just kind of landed there and I'm like, this feels good. This feels good. It still requires some like explaining when people are like, tell me more about that, because like an easy catch and grab would be like life coach, but it's a little deeper than that.
Yeah.
So for people that are really willing to have the conversation, I'm able to kind of break it down in that way.
Could you maybe explain a little further of like what that spirituality kind of consists of?
Sure. It's pretty much anything that the person feels connected to. So I really inspire and encourage my students to begin like doing what I call fuck around and find out. Like start poking around and seeing like what feels good for you. Like if there's something that looks really attractive, even if you were like never allowed to do that. Like for some people, it's like crystals or spells or Reiki or just things, like just go out there and see what feels good. It's like something that has piqued your curiosity that you've always wanted to know more about, but never explored. Go explore it. Go see what it's like. Go see what it feels like. Go see, go find out. Go find out what works for you. So I really just help them. Pretty much I give them permission, because that's what people feel like they don't have, is permission. So having someone that's like, no, I support what you want to do. Go do that thing. And then helping them to kind of just reel that in a way that makes sense for them.
There's so much judgment and shame wrapped up in, formal religions. Like Sky grew up Jehovah's Witness. I grew up in Catholicism, and all the different kind of rituals and symbolism. And it kind of takes away from what's most important, which is that connection. Right. And so I think for a lot of us, and I know for a lot of my clients, it's really breaking down, deconstructing, just like getting rid of this shame and judgment that has been built up in some of these more traditional formal religions.
Absolutely. Like I 100% agree with that. And it's a hard and lonely path if you haven't found your group or your people who support you, because the herd mentality is so strong. And it's like a fear-based herd mentality. And so it's like you're going to have the people that mean well, but that are like really discouraging you from doing the thing that feels good for you. We're going to pray for her. It's like, yeah, you can pray for me all you want. I'm doing me. You know what I mean? It's like they really think they know, but they don't. And so it really requires you to have that like confidence in yourself and that belief in yourself that like, no, what I'm doing is right for me. And that's okay if 800 people over there don't agree with me. Like that's okay.
What were some of the things that really pointed you in this new direction or it motivated you, I guess, to go and want to become a coach?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question. Just overcoming a lot of my trauma myself and like wanting people to know and like have the key that I didn't have, the permission that I didn't have, that came so much later in my life that I wish I would have known, you know what I mean, before, and how like, and it's like everything happens for a reason, but it's like at that time, it's like, I wish I would have known that this could have been this way or that this could have been different. And so I really just want to be able to offer people that so that they can like set themselves free. Like that's really fulfilling for me to like watch that transformation happen.
In many ways, just since I've been doing this podcast with you, kind of seen you also sort of go through this similar journey. You know, I
Yeah.
remember when we first started this podcast, you were somewhat reluctant to want to open up about your spirituality and about the
Yeah.
journey, because
Yeah.
I think there was so much judgment, you know, laid on you from childhood.
100%. Yeah, 100%. You think about these people that you grew up, you know, you're all believing the same thing, and all of a sudden, like, oh, everyone, like, growing up, if they started believing something else, then we just didn't hear from them again. So of course, I think, you know, I believe in a little bit different way than you do now. And I was worried, of course, about being excommunicated or not being able to be talked to again. So yeah, there's definitely a fear there, but definitely embracing it has helped me really truly become who I am and who I need to be. I've made my relationship with God my own, and I feel like I'm doing exactly what I need to do for the universe and listening to what it needs me to do right now for my life. So it is an amazing experience for sure.
I love that. I love that for you. I'm so happy for you. So happy.
Thanks.
Sky, I don't know if I've ever talked about my brief stint. I mean, I spent kindergarten through 12th grade in Catholic school. Actually, when I was a junior, I was asked to leave the all boys Catholic high school that I was in because I was writing all over the Bible, not some of the best things. And it wasn't like they could kick me out for grades or really any inappropriate conduct, but I was, you know, desecrating some holy scripture for sure. And that kind of turned me away from religion and spirituality. And then when I was about 20 years old, I somehow found myself in this Pentecostal church where we actually prophesied and spoke in tongues and all sorts of very interesting things that we did. And unfortunately, I guess the religion or that church in particular was embezzling a lot of money. They had this huge like corruption scandal with all these pro athletes that they were trying to get into. And I started asking questions. And next thing I know, I was asked, you know, never to come back again, and lost, you know, all those friends I built. I was on my way. I was sort of kind of being raised through them to become a pastor myself, you know, really studying the Bible every day. And all of a sudden, you know, this rug was pulled out from under me because I was sort of poking holes into, you know, what was really going on. You know, I know there's just so many people out there who go through a similar experience, want to put their absolute faith into a higher power, into God, into whatever you want to call it, but then are let down by the men along the way. It took 10, 13 years, I think, almost from that moment for me to want to decide to rediscover faith again. So I really applaud everything you're doing, because I probably could have used somebody like you 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Thank you for sharing that. And I totally relate. You know, I went on my journey of like, screw this too. And you're right. And I think now looking back, it's like, I understand exactly what you're saying, because I did the same thing. It's like, and this is what a lot of people do. We put so much faith in the people who are delivering the message that when they fall short or do these like really contradictory things, our faith is challenged because we had our faith in the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I had my faith in the people instead of like the thing. And then when the people let me down, I like said, screw the thing, instead of just like they delivered it wrong. And that was a huge aha moment for me in my journey. Like, it's the people that delivered it wrong. Oh, like I was blaming God for what people were telling me. And that was one of my big moments when I was like writing to God, and you know, like I was like cussing this man out. Like I
feel you.
Behind the back of a bar, I was like, "You're an asshole," and "Screw you," and like all this other stuff, and blaming him for everything. I'm saying him, but she, whatever. It's just so familiar, me saying him. I remember like when I was done venting, he was like, "Kristen, sweetheart, you never asked me what I thought," and I was like, "Damn. You're right." You know what I mean? Like I was speechless. You're right. I literally never asked you yourself what you thought. So that moment I was like, well, what about this? And what about this? And what do you think about this? And every single response was so loving, so kind, so like, and I was just like, my mind was blown. Like that was it for me. After that, I was like, screw everything anybody ever told me. It's me and this thing from here on out. You know what I mean? And it was like locked in. Yeah.
It's so interesting when I'm working with clients, I want them to really either rediscover, reinvigorate, but in one way or another, really kind of increase their level of spirituality, faith, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of times when I have clients who have really no idea where to turn first, the first thing I tell them is just ask. Just ask. And for some reason or another, I always feel like whatever that faith you're supposed to have sort of shows itself. Ask and you shall receive. And I truly believe that.
Ooh, that brings up a good
Absolutely.
point. Asking ye shall receive, right? Kristen, you made a post the other day about angel signs. And I was
Oh.
wondering if looking back, you can see where those signs might have been for you when you knew you were doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Really weird shit would start happening to me. And it was, yeah, like really, I think when I was first making my way back to even being open to the idea, much like Ryan, like to even be open to the idea of like re-engaging, very supernatural things were happening. And I think that that was like the universe's effort to like really draw me in, really get my attention, really, you know what I mean? Because it's like something small and minimal wouldn't have moved me as much. But one of the things that I will never forget is I was alone. I was at home and I was like, okay, I'm going to give prayer a shot. I'm just going to decide to say a small prayer. And this was huge for me because I hadn't prayed for years. And so I decided, I was like, I'll just get down on my knees and just like say a quick prayer. So I think I got as far as like, dear God. And all of a sudden, like my doorbell rang. It was like, boom. And I like jumped up and I was like scared as shit. And I was like, I like went to the door. Of course, no one was there, right? And the crazy thing about this is that the doorbell was non-functional. So the fact that it even rang at all was like, what the F? And it was on like, it was like an old school doorbell. So it was like on like a bell. There was like a chime inside of the house.
Oh.
That thing chimed so loud and vibrated so hard for hours. I'm not kidding. Like it was still just like, boom. And I got so freaked out. I literally left the house. I grabbed my keys and I left the house because I'm like, I'm not staying in here. It felt so like, I feel like that was one of those moments where you're like in the presence of God or like in the presence of the divine. Like it just felt so heavy. I like left. I got in the car. I called someone, was like, you're not going to believe what just happened to me. And I was like, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I'm going to like go to the grocery store and come back. And it should not be ringing when I come back. It was still vibrating. And I like called, he's my ex-husband now, but I like called him to tell him. And like, it was like, for him, he's like not like, he doesn't believe in anything really like that. And so he was like, yeah, it's probably just like it. And in my mind, I'm like, no. I'm like, you cannot tell me. And the other thing about that moment was like, I had all of this divine insight. I had all of this like understanding of like what that meant, which was like, I was hearing or feeling like inside of myself, like, yes, I like this posture. I like this humility, like me, like down on my knees. Like it was just like a whole thing. So that was one of the things that happened to me as far as like angel signs when I'm like undeniable, definitely got my attention and I will never forget it for the rest of my life. Ever.
That's so neat. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Freaks me out still. Retelling the story. I'm like,
yeah, as it was.
And I know it sounds crazy.
Not at all. I have my own kind of set of practices and rituals. And almost at this point, it never ceases to amaze me the amount of synchronicities or just, like when I'm really on top of my practices, it's like I'm just kind of flowing with God a lot of times. Like I know that the universe is going to bring this to me. I know that this is going to work out just the way it should. I know this isn't going to work out, but I'm still probably going to do it anyways and then get slapped in the face and learn a lesson. And it's taken me, quite a bit of time to really develop what kind of practices work for me. And that's the whole range of whether that's Buddhist meditation, ancient Hermeticism, or some sort of angel work, as well as astrology and and some crystals as well. So
yeah, whatever you want.
And I think all of it has its own, there's something to be said for just about every practice. Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, too, like I said, Hermeticism, astrology. I think there's actually something there to all of it.
There really is. And I feel like it also is like, what are you looking for? What am I looking for? Like, what kind of insight am I looking for? Then I know kind of like where I want to go, like what kind of style I want in that moment. Like, do I want to feel super inspired and motivated? Maybe I'm going to channel like or like read some scripture from like Paul or like Moses or someone who I really identify with that like helped people overcome this thing, you know what I mean? Or am I just trying to figure out like, what's some guidance for my day? And I'm going to pull some angel cards. It's like, what do I want? You know what I mean? And that can kind of guide like what kind of spiritual practice I want to tap into to get me the most vibed up or tapped in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So going back to a story you were telling earlier about, your brother coming out to you, can you tell us how it did turn out with your parents?
Yes, it was a complete shit show. He ran away from home for a time because he felt so unloved and unsupported. And I remember my mom locking herself in the bathroom. Oh no, that's when my sister got pregnant as a teen. Yeah, that was a different lot. Yeah,
different traumatic stories.
Right, I know. So, but yeah, that one, it was very traumatic for the entire family, especially my brother. And I also remember like, I found this out like this past year from a friend that like they actually took him to church and did a prayer circle around him and tried to like pray his gayness out of him. Hearing that, like, I didn't even know that he like went through that. And I just was like, so sad, like, just like so sad, so hurt.
Just clarifying, because you've gone through this huge journey. And so I was just wondering if there was, I like to know people's backgrounds on, it kind of gives, us and our listeners a clarity of kind of the end of the story on how it worked.
Okay. The end of the story. Yes. Yes. So yeah, I pretty much just kind of like rode out with my brother in like full support. Like, I love you no matter what. So like, that, I just became his like greatest supporter. And I know that he definitely still experienced challenges, but like, I feel like my family, like, I feel like they came around. I feel like whether or not they still believe what they believe that the church taught them, it's almost like they've created like this separation of like, we're still going to love you and interact with you. Like there were times later, down the line when like boyfriends would come over. He's had partners come on vacations with, you know what I mean? And so it's like, in that sense, I feel like they came around. I don't know if they still wonder or doubt, or if they have just kind of come to this place of like acceptance within themselves. If I don't really know what they believe at the end of the day, like, do you just love him and just still believe like, well, he could still go to hell at the end of the day, but we're just going to love him while he's on earth? I don't know what they believe, but they at least have come around to the point where like, we're all able to be in an environment and it feels like everything is fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's good. I'm glad. At least there's, probably took some time, but I'm glad that there's maybe a happy ending there. At least an accepting ending.
Exactly. There. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
How about, is your family like supportive of you and your journey into this world of spirituality exploration?
Funny. I definitely don't feel super supported by like my parents. I feel like they don't really know what I do. I feel like they don't understand it. They don't ask. And I like rebranded, I want to say like last year, because like when I first started just like really developing myself and putting myself on social media, I was going by this name, Kristen, the Badass Christian. And it was like, it was almost like a rebel teen that finally like discovers her power. And she's like, fuck the system. You guys don't have to do it that way. You can do it your own way. Let's go. And it was like this, like, I get it. And I understand why I needed to have that energy at that time. And I've like evolved to like Global Kristen, which like I was like fighting my angels on. I'm like, but what about like, no, like, and they're like, we're trying to elevate you. Like, we want you to be able to speak like globally, and the way that you're delivering your message now works for a certain type of listener, but like, we want you to be able to speak to a world where if we turned you on a TV, anybody can listen, like a child, old people, younger people, you know what I mean? So anyway, that ended up being like rebranding, and now I'm Global Kristen. But like when I initially like came out, and I'm like forgetting why I'm talking about this, similar to Ryan when he, got kicked out of school because he was like writing in the Bible and stuff like that.
Who cares?
They're really just like, like what you're doing is sacrilegious, because I would like, one of my favorite things to do is like read scripture and like interpret it and develop these like really dope stories. But I would call it like, I'm about to fuck up some scripture. And they'd be like, you can't say that. You can't. I wasn't, intention is everything, right? I wasn't degrading it. I wasn't being negative. It was like my way of being like, we're going to soak this up because it's so good. And so I think that they just like don't understand what I'm doing and the journey, because I was a nurse for 14 years. I literally have my master's degree in nursing, and I'm not doing that, and I'm coaching. And it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle to like this road of entrepreneurship. And for them, they're just like, they just don't understand my decisions. Like my decisions are from like the beyond. And like for them, they're like, we don't understand why you would struggle. They don't understand my decisions. And so I feel like they don't support them because they're worried about me or afraid, or I don't know. But I definitely, they're not my biggest cheerleaders. And I've had to just find my people.
I think that's what we all do. We all try to find our people, right? Our people that
Yes.
are going to love us unconditionally, no matter what.
Right.
For sure. You know, this version of this podcast is actually also because of an angel sign. Is me listening to the universe telling me what I needed to do to make this what I needed it to be. And that's when I found Ryan. That's when we rebranded with a different logo. That's when we rebranded our format. And it's all been working out so good. Mm-hmm. So I'm so glad I listened. And there was so much that changed about my life from that day forward.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely felt more connected to the universe. I find myself listening to it a little more. I ride the train to work sometimes. And there's this one particular train I always get on. I'm a creature of habit. But I walked up and I was like, I'm going to go onto this train. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit on the back end of that train. And I sat down and there was this girl crying who I ended up talking to, who told me, thank you so much for talking to me at the end. And I'm so glad that I listened to where I was pointed to be. I find things like that happening to me more and more, the more I flow with the universe instead of trying to fight my nature with it.
Right, exactly. And even you and I connecting, like that felt so effortless, didn't it?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was just like automatically felt like high vibe. And I was just like, wow, it's just like people just pop up into your life. And it's just like, I find that people doing the work, it's like you develop these relationships and it's like, they're fast. They're fast. You get to know each other fast. You get to like, you know what I mean? And it's like, because there's no bullshit. You know what I mean? Like there's no sifting through the fakeness. Everyone's just like trying to practice being real and vulnerable. And like, and it's the most attractive thing because that's what our soul wants. Like we want realness, authenticity. And so it's like, you can't deny the vibe. Like when you feel that, you're just like,
boom,
you know,
these guys are my people.
Boom. Exactly. It feels good.
Yeah. You know, it's pretty funny. The further along in my journey I get, the more I feel like I'm finding people who are kind of along a similar journey, which has been really cool to hear everybody's different experiences on how they got into it and how they got connected to it. And this amazing community that I've found doing this mental health work.
I love the work that you're doing too. It's so like when I was listening to your one podcast episode and you were talking just like about your past and you were like expressing so much about like, and then I had this other experience where this person committed suicide and then there was this other person. And I'm just like, first of all, the fact that you're naming more than one person, I'm like, and I'm thinking about your incarnation and I'm like, oh my God, like he's someone who's here that has experienced this same type of trauma over and over again. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so grateful that you're like doing this work. It's so obvious that you would be aligned with this based on all of the trauma that you've experienced around here. You know,
it's funny. I used to do suicide work back in high school too. And it's not something that I ever get connected to again. And then, you know, it just kind of fell upon me and I kind of just like fell into this and I'm so glad I did. And I'm so glad I listened. And I'm sure other people who've, you know, I found what I loved and I followed it and it gives you so much more purpose in life and gives you a reason to wake up every morning. And I wish everybody could find that.
I know. I totally feel you on that. And it's like, I was saying this the other day too. I was like, I would rather struggle to do what makes me happy than to suffer to do what makes me unhappy. And even though it's like a challenge, you know what I mean? It's fulfilling. The work is fulfilling. Like, yeah, it's hard, but it's fucking fulfilling. You know what I mean? And it's like to have inner joy, to have inner peace, to have self-acceptance, because I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Come hell or high water, it's like something that other people that aren't doing this can't experience. So they don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like you can't feel fulfilled if you're living a fake life, if you're not in alignment with what you actually want to be doing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
My favorite quote is from this book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's written by this psychiatrist who go through Nazi Germany and was in the concentration camps. And at the beginning of the book, he writes just kind of this thing about like striving for success just for success, or striving for happiness just for happiness will always lead you empty. The real path to success is to find something with a much higher, a much greater purpose, or someone else, and therefore you go after that wholeheartedly, listening to your conscience, and what it's nagging you to do along the way. And then success will ensue. And I can't, getting to be a therapist and helping people day in and day out. And while, I get the opportunity to make a little money alongside it, it is the greatest work to be able to help people when they need it most, or just help people along their journey, throughout the way.
I love that. And what you just said reminded me of saying or quote that I heard, which was, the journey is the destination. And it's like, oh, I love that, because it's like, yeah, like I'm here now. Like, this is it right now. Like, this is it. This is the destination. The journey is the destination. And like, that really just helps me stay so grounded and present, Yeah. Love that.
Another sort of in relation to spirituality and mental health, I read this somewhere, and I'm not sure how accurate it is, but there is a study out there somewhere that says that the greater our level of spirituality and our connectedness to a higher power, the greater our level of resilience and purpose. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's like you're doing this serious faith walk where you are like, okay, well, all timing is divine, and like I'm here for a reason. It's like you're using all of these things to like fuel your day to day to like make it to the next day. And it's like when you continue to find the evidence of how you're being sustained, it's like, this shit is undeniable. Like I can't deny I'm being sustained right now. Like, of course, you know what I mean? And it just continues to lend to the journey, like to know that you're being guided, and to like not just like believe, like want to believe that, but to see the evidence of that. So powerful.
Kristen, what do you think? I think I read that now is kind of the first time that more people aren't attending church than those that are. Obviously, like the churches themselves, their numbers aren't what they used to be at all, even, in the last 10, 20, 30 years. But there also seems to be this revitalization of just spirituality for spirituality's sake. I don't know. Do you have anything to say about, any of that? Maybe just the lack of numbers in churches, but also maybe the rise in, maybe just a greater connectedness with our own faith, and what steps maybe people can take to deepen that if they want to.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And I have noticed that too. Like, I think that people are yearning for connection. And I think that they are finally developing the courage with like all of these other things that are happening. They probably feel supported by like the movement for women, or like Black Lives Matter, or all these different types of movements that are happening, like pride, and so people are watching these other pockets of people rise, even though they're afraid. And so they're kind of like, well, if they can do it, I can do it, and I think that they're starting to feel inspired, and they're starting to question, like, do things really need to be the way that I was told? And like, that's great, because now you're starting to do that self-interrogation where you're like, well, what do I think about all of this anyway? And I think that people are just becoming more willing to ask themselves those questions, and they're watching other people do that too, and feel inspired along the way. I really think that people want to feel connected. They just don't know how. Like, they just don't know how. And they've only known one way, and they're terrified of making a mistake. Why? Because the repercussion for the mistake is burn in hell for eternity. So you're like, well, shit, do I even fuck around and try? Like, or, you know what I mean? It literally is like holding people hostage to like a belief that doesn't even serve them, or a belief that doesn't even feel good.
Or being excommunicated, like, like Sky, right? You're losing your family, your friends. Yeah.
Right. And that's scary. A lot of people, like, we're supposed to feel connected. So any sort of disconnection feels so wrong. It feels like death.
Yep.
Especially for like a 2.
Yeah,
if
when
you're
you think
not
you're
woke.
losing your community, absolutely.
Exactly. And so a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to stay. And that's the sad part, is that they might have the awareness around the fact that it's not serving them, but they still choose to stay because they like the comfort of being around other people, even if it doesn't serve them. It's sad. It's just like trauma. You know how like you can like marry your trauma, or you like stay
Mhm.
around trauma because it's so familiar, even
Mhm.
though it's trauma and you know that it's traumatic. It's like on the outside, you look like, how could I do this? But like you understand, you get it, you see how people get wrapped up. Yeah. So as far as advice for people, I think I would say if you feel like you have some ideas or insights or feelings that like are different or that aren't really aligned with like where you are, to start kind of just like exploring on your own, like just on your own, because you're the only person that needs to give you permission. So just start to kind of write some of your ideas out, like write them down in a journal that you can keep in a safe space where someone's not going to like find it and out you for your thoughts, but just like find a way or a place that you can get your thoughts out so that you can begin to explore like what you really think. And if you have like a trusted friend that you feel like you could really share with them, but like start small. Like I feel like when I started to have awareness around like the differences that I saw, I felt like I was like, I have to change everything at once. I gotta, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it could feel like that. Like everything needs to change. And it's just like, just take it like one step at a time. Everything doesn't need to change in one day. It can't anyway.
No.
So just take your time, give yourself time to just explore your thoughts. Like that's like probably my greatest advice. Like just give yourself permission to explore your own damn thoughts, like see what you think about it.
And once you kind of feel like you're headed down the right path, I mean, the knowledge, the learning, the wisdom, all of the different practices are endless, truly. And it really is, it's a lifelong journey, but it's certainly one worth having. And it's so great that there's people out there like you, Kristen, who, can kind of help guide people along, because, man, I know just how lost I was leaving Catholicism, but also when I was really motivated and wanted to, to develop this part of me, I kind of had nowhere to go really. And so I was kind of stumbling around and reading what I could. If I would have had a spirituality coach like you, that would have been great. Would have sped along the journey a bit.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that. That makes me feel really good for the work that I do. And, I'm happy that we're all in our lanes, like you're a therapist and like, like Sky's doing his thing on his podcast and everything. And like, I'm doing my thing. And it's like, we're all just like following the path that we are supposed to follow. So we're doing the work, and we're really helping people in the way that really feels like, we feel so aligned with it, because it's like, it does get tiring and it does get taxing. But when you're so passionate about it, like it really continues to drive you. And so I'm happy for all three of us. Yay, we did the work.
Yeah. Kristen, I got to tell you, I've really, since I've been following you, I really have enjoyed your daily affirmations and your videos. They've been very encouraging. And it's one of the things I look forward to for starting my day. So what you're doing, I think, is so amazing. And I'm so happy to be able to get to call you my friend and to have you on this podcast.
Yes. Thank you so much. That makes me feel really good. I love hearing that like positive feedback from people. It's really encouraging for me to like keep doing it, so thank you for sharing. And thank you both for having me. This was so fun. Such a great way to like wrap up my night. It's awesome.
Yeah. Cause you're a few hours ahead of us. Yes.
Yes. I'm Eastern Standard Time. So it is 7:52 at night.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for taking part of your evening.
Yeah, no worries. Right now I'm in Philadelphia.
Oh, nice. Is that where you're based?
Yes. Yeah. But I work with, it's like I do my work online. So it's like anyone in the world, which is really awesome.
You were working from Germany a few weeks ago?
I was. Wow. That was so cool. Yeah,
that was cool.
That was fun.
That's kind of like right around when I first found you. So I'm glad that you got to have that experience.
You were like, hit me up when we get back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is great. Kristen, is there anything you want to tell our listeners about yourself, where they can find you? Are there any projects you're working on that you can tell us about? Just whatever we can do to help you get your word out there, we want to help with.
Yeah, that's super sweet. Thank you. So I do most of my content on Facebook. So if you just search facebook.com/Global Global Kristen, like global spelled just like global, and then Kristen, Kristen. I'm also at global_Kristen on Instagram. And some of the things that I'm working on right now, I have my own program, which is great. It's called Mission I'm Possible. It's just super fabulous. I just take you through like the whole transformation, like we discussed on this call. And I'm also working with someone right now who is an NCLEX coach, and I'm helping his students with the mindset work around like redefining their self-image so that they can combat test taking anxiety. He works with students who are like failing their nursing boards over and over again. And so that feels really good to be a part of that too. Just like seeing all the different ways that your gifts can be used for other people. So yeah, we're working on that right now, and his students are thriving and doing awesome. So it feels really good to be a part of that as well. But yeah, those are the places that you can reach me if you feel like you're someone who really identified with, my style and, might be open to like how I coach. I would love to connect. So you can just reach out to me on those platforms.
Yeah, awesome. That's so
Sounds
killer.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Ryan, any last words for you or any last comments or questions for Kristen before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I just love the name Mission I'm Possible. I think
Thank
that's so
you.
cool. Yeah. Other than that, Kristen, it was great having you on. I love spirituality, and I think more and more people need it in their lives, in the actual spiritual connection more than anything else, not just the sit, stand, kneel formalities of some religions, but the actual connection to something deeper and higher.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you. And yeah, this was awesome.
We appreciate you too. Well, that's it for this episode of Hey Man, It's Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. Please make sure to comment, like, subscribe, follow us. Check us out on all social media at Hey Man, It's Okay. And okay is just the letters OK, not OKAY. So I want to thank you for joining us. And from Sky, it's okay to not be okay. And we'll check you out next time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.